It is time for our third and final vlog for E3 2019, and my goodness, what a week it was, and even the week after. I mean, you guys can obviously tell this is uploading on Saturday, June 22nd, a good week after the show has closed, but man, the work that goes into this never ends. So, you get to the show floor, you do all that stuff, and then you come home, and there's still more to do after the fact. So we're finally done. This is our last bit of coverage for E3 2019. So first off, if you haven't seen my coverage of EA Play or the Microsoft/PC gaming conferences, you can go check those out somewhere up here. But today we're just going to cover what I did during show floor hours. So I went in as media for GameTyrant.com, the website that I am the editor, manager for. And I really wanted to make as big of a impact as I could this year, kind of. I wanted to see as much as I could, so I really filled up my schedule, as you can see. There were quite a few big-name games that I got the opportunity to go see, including Final Fantasy VII Remake, Borderlands 3, LEGO Star Wars, Cyberpunk 2077, Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, and Sakuna of Rice and Ruin. But let's just go ahead and take this day by day at a time. There was 3 days the show floor was open, so let's just go ahead and start off with Tuesday. Like, Tuesday, the show floor actually opened later than every other day of the week. Don't know why, but it did. People setting up still, I guess. I don't know. But on Tuesday, my first appointment was actually with Daedalic Entertainment. They had quite a few games on show this year, but the two that I got to demo were A Year of Rain and Archades, Lord of the Dead. And both of these games were really cool. So Archades is going to be a very tactical type of a game. So for all you fans of really in-depth strategies and thinkings, keep an eye out for Archades. It's going to be amazing. And then for my RTS fans, A Year of Rain is like a classic callback to Warcraft 3, but focused on like co-op in 2v2 modes. Like, it's really, really cool looking. I enjoyed what I saw. The combat looked good, very strategic. Immediately following Daedalic, I got to go over to Gameloft, and if you have no idea who they are, they really specialize in mobile titles. So they've been around for quite a number of years on cell phones, like even back to the flip phone days. So I got to check out a number of their upcoming mobile titles, including 2 Disney puzzle games, a Lego game, Lego RPG game, that actually looks really cool. It's classic Legos. It's all built around the history of Legos, so it's like older sets from like the 80s, 90s, and as you unlock sets, those sets can give your characters buffs, and your characters, like, it's just like it's Final Fantasy type RPG, turn-based RPG, but the history behind it, the depth they went into, like, every set that gets built actually gets built according to the original instruction booklets that came with these sets. So all the pieces build up, and it looked really awesome, and I can't wait till that one comes out and we can let John just go to town on it and see what happens, since he's so into Legos now. The last game on show at Gameloft was Asphalt 9 for Switch, and that was a gorgeous game. I don't think I've seen a more beautiful Switch game. I mean, it's a racing title. Racing titles are always about being beautiful, and man, it pulls it off. And it really had a really fun Burnout vibe to it. I've never played any of the Asphalt games, so I've never actually seen any of them before, but I'm really excited for Asphalt 9 on Switch because it totally looks like a Burnout spoof. After Gameloft, I got to go hit up the Indiecade for a little bit, and I got to see awesome games like Tiny Metal. This game has quite a pedigree behind it, and if you're a fan of Advance Wars, definitely check it out. And then I also got to see Keen, which is a slide puzzle game, and it was actually pretty fun. I got sucked into it a lot, and I didn't really want to stop playing it when the demo time ran out. But unfortunately, I needed to get going because I had an appointment with Obsidian to see The Outer World. So I seriously think Obsidian has outdone themselves with Outer World. It is really, really cool looking. The environments look really cool. The enemies, the combat, the story that we got to see just all looked awesome and really built on what they've done before. So they're working with Private Division on that one. And yeah, the game is top notch. So look out, Bethesda. Obsidian is taking that choice-based RPG crown with this game. The next game that I got to see is one that many of you that watch me are excited for, and that is Final Fantasy VII Remake. When I scheduled this appointment, I didn't know what game it was. It just said unannounced Square Japanese game 1. So there were 2 unannounced games, which were Final Fantasy VII Remake and Avengers. So both of those actually did get announced before the show, but it didn't ever tell me what it was when I made my appointment. So ended up being Final Fantasy VII Remake, which I was happy with. Not gonna lie, guys, you know I don't care about the original Final Fantasy VII that much. It was a fine game. It's still cool, but I always thought 8 and 9 were way better. Sorry guys. 8 and 9 were better. But anyway, Final Fantasy VII Remake, no more turn-based combat, no more random battles, and there is still some strategic depth to how you interact with your different party members, so you can switch between them. You can go into a slowed down time mode to tactically plan out some special moves, and just overall the game played phenomenally. Like, I finally care about this remake just because of the enhanced combat, enhanced experience. Like, don't get me wrong, I still love turn-based games, but I hate going back and playing a game I've beaten a few times that uses turn-based combat and random battles. I just want to like play it for the story at that point. I don't care about that stuff, so it just becomes quite a bit of a drag, which is one of the reasons why I love the fast-forward mode on the PC version of Final Fantasy X. But Final Fantasy VII Remake, even though it's going to be split up into different parts, like, it's going to be huge. It looks good. Oh man, it finally I care about this game. I cannot wait. My next appointment was actually with Deep Silver to check out a new tactical real-time strategy game called Iron Harvest, which is set in a alternate reality version of history where these walking mechs were built based on the plans of Nikola Tesla, and so World War I had a completely different outcome, and the year is 1920, and 3 factions are gearing up for another fight. And this is a game that's built along the same premises as Company of Heroes, which I greatly enjoyed. So, really cool game. You have a limited number of units you can build. You can build the base, you can do all kinds of fun stuff, but the game itself was really cool. So, a couple of the other people in the demo with me ended up leaving after about 10 minutes, but I ended up staying and doing the entire 30-minute time slot for that demo until the demo actually kicked me out. Like, I was glued to my seat playing that game. I loved it. The mech units were really cool. There was different strategies involved. Ground units could change their loadouts based on what they found in crates. So if you built like a normal gunner infantry and you found a grenade kit, you could upgrade them to grenadiers instead of having to have built grenadiers. So a lot of depth to it. Resources are all found by capturing just points on the map. So overall, very much enjoyed it, and I can't wait to see more of that game. It was so good. The next game that I got to see, I really was not expecting, like, I didn't know what to expect from this thing. But it comes to us from Annapurna Interactive, and it is called Sayonara Wild Hearts. So I guess the concept could be similar to that of Nights into Dreams. I've never really played that game, so I didn't have a comparison going in, but that's what people have told me since. But you're basically playing as a character, and you're just going back and forth trying to collect these heart pieces, and the whole game is playing out to a really awesome pop soundtrack. I'm not a pop person, guys. You know this. If you don't, now know. I'm not a pop person. I don't listen to pop all that much. I'm a rock guy. Give me my rock. But needless to say, I'm playing this game and I was digging the soundtrack so much. It was so good. But it's a very precision-based game if you want to collect all of the different things that appear. So I can see this being a really good score attack game in the future. And then there were also parts where you needed to precisely time your button presses to fight off enemies and stuff. But overall, really interesting concept, and I walked away pretty impressed and can't wait to see more. So after checking out Sayonara, I went and stopped in at the HyperX booth, which was literally just one booth down from Annapurna Interactive, because we've worked with HyperX before at Game Tyrant. They sent me these as a review unit, even. They had an open spot, so I kind of just had an impromptu meeting with them to check out their new line of headphones, and so those blew my freaking mind. Like, you would put them on, and you would press a button on the back, and it would set where you're looking at. You know, it would set it to the front. Like, this is the front, and we had Latin music playing, and as you would turn, the audio would come from, like, the audio is set to the front, so whereas you would turn, the audio would travel to the different headphones, like to the different ears, and it sounded so good and so clean. Like, it literally felt like there was a band sitting 5 feet away from me as I would turn my head. Like, they were just right there. They're right there. I can hear them. They're right here. Like, the whole, like, oh man, the things that they're going to be able to do with the technology is just absolutely incredible. Like, audio's nuts. I'm sad that I'm not more into the audio side of things. Like, I know nothing about most audio products. Like, I'm so lacking in knowledge on the audio front, and I really need to dig deeper into that and get it beefed up, because stuff like that just... But speaking of audio, my next appointment actually happened to be with Astro Gaming. So, for those of you that don't know Astro, they make very high-end, high-quality headsets. So, they have their line of, like, the A50, which is like the premium wireless headset that costs like $350, $300, somewhere in that range. And I've sold a ton of A50s when I worked back at GameStop back in the day. Like, everyone just raved about how good they were. So they had a redesigned A50 at the show. They were showing their entry-level A10 headsets. Those have been out on the market for a little bit, but they were showing those off as well. Very, very durable for a $60 range headset. Looked really cool. They even had a Legend of Zelda one on display that just looked absolutely gorgeous. Like, I want it. I want it so bad. But the entire time we're going through the product lineup, I'm checking out the Astro C40 PS4 Pro controller, basically. It's like an Xbox Elite controller, only for PS4. And really, really high quality. And it's honestly one of the best controllers I've ever felt, regardless of console. Like, that thing felt so good. It actually fit in my hands. I have big hands. Like, you guys, I have big hands. I like big controllers, so Astro C40, like, I just couldn't help but play with it the entire time we're in this meeting. So, I mean, I'm just messing around with it. They're talking to me about stuff. I'm just sitting there mashing buttons and pretending to play a game. Thumbsticks had a great resistance to them. I loved the D-pad. It felt like metal. The whole thing was wrapped in soft touch, had the rubberized grips on the back. Buttons had very good actuation. Like, I just loved it. Triggers felt good. And it just felt so good. Like, no better PS4 controller exists. And again, it might be one of the best controllers I've ever felt. The other really cool thing about the C40 is that it could actually change the position of the D-pad and thumbstick. So they built it to be easily replaceable and repairable. Because it's a tournament controller, you're going to wear down your thumbsticks, so instead of having to buy a whole new controller, you could just swap in a new module. So you unscrew the faceplate, it'd pop off, and you can swap in the new modules, and you can also change where the D-pad and the thumbstick were. So if you like the side-by-side of the thumbsticks, like on PlayStation, that's what it comes as a default, but if you're an Xbox player, you can offset the thumbstick, which is what I would love. After the appointment with Astro, I actually went to the Regal Cinemas for a presentation on Black Desert Online. I got invited to this party about a month before the show, so I started playing Black Desert Online a little bit, so I knew something about the game. So during the presentation, they officially announced the PS4 version of Black Desert Online and a mobile version, which I think is pretty cool. It'd be a great mobile game, I think. And they also introduced the new character class, Psy, if I remember right. It was called Psy. But afterwards, there was just a little bit of an after party. So yeah. On Wednesday morning, my first appointment was actually an hour into when the show floor opened, so I spent a little bit of time walking around and checking out some of the booths. I didn't really wait in any lines to go see anything because I didn't want to get stuck there and then have to leave for an appointment anyway, because lines at E3 are absolutely abysmal. First appointment on Wednesday was with Haymaker Headphones. It's a new headphone company that looks to challenge what Astro's doing in the high-end market, and they had pretty sleek looking headphones. They had the whole thing designed like carbon fiber. It looked super cool. And then I got to go hands-on with it, of course. And like I just said, I wish I knew more about audio and like all these cool advanced techniques that are going into it, but the 3D positioning on the headset was so good. I was playing PUBG Mobile and I landed in an area and there was about 4 guys, plus including me, I think. And I go into a house and I could actually tell where all these other characters were. I've always had trouble, like even on my really nice Cloud Mix headset, I still have trouble being able to tell if someone is in front of me or behind me. And with the Haymaker, I could tell exactly where they were. Yeah, this guy's behind me. This guy's in front. This guy's over here. And it was really cool because that's what a headset's supposed to do for you. And I've just never really experienced that before, even on my nice headset. Like, it blew my friggin' mind. I was like, what the? He's right here. He's right here. Get him. But those headsets are expected to launch this summer, and they're going to be pretty pricey. They're like up in the $300 range. So keep an eye out for them if you're looking for a really premium headset, I guess. But after Haymaker, I went and checked out Eureka Ergonomics, and they are designers of gaming desks. Like, they're really cool looking desks. They have like carbon fiber finish. Apparently that's the theme of Wednesday's carbon fiber. I love it. But their desks look fantastic. You can get a roller cage for your tower. Like, it has... I'm just gonna post a picture here. Just look at the picture. They look nice. Following Eureka, I finally got to go hands-on with the Polymega, and where do I even begin with the Polymega console? I freaking loved it. That was an awesome experience. I got to meet Brian, the CEO of Playmagi, the company behind Polymega. He let me plug in my capture card and record nearly an hour's worth of footage of the Polymega running, all of its different shaders, screen filters. I got to play a number of different games. First thing I loaded up, of course, was Mega Man X4. You can check out the Polymega gameplay videos, of course, on my channel. I've uploaded those the day I got them. So, tried out Mega Man X4, felt flawless to play. The emulation accuracy, now that I've had a chance to dive into it, it is the same emulation accuracy as Mednafen on PC, because guess what? That's the emulator they're using, so But it was really good, very low latency. Like, I noticed no input lag. I was using an actual Sega Saturn controller through a USB adapter. I also got to use one of RetroBit's Sega Saturn controllers on it. It felt great. Brian also pulled out a PlayStation Classic USB controller, so I'm going to assume those work. We didn't plug that one in, but also got to use the wireless controller. It felt good to use. I wasn't playing a game I was familiar with, so I didn't know how the latency really handled, but I really couldn't tell anything. Again, it felt good, it felt responsive, so I can't complain about that. Polymega's had its fair share of haters since the project was announced and has changed over the years, but I've always been in love with the concept of it because, I mean, this channel got started based on emulation. I run Rogue Squadron 2 when hardly anyone else could at the time. No one believed me, so bam, here's a video, and that's how the channel started. But having an easy-to-use, all-in-one emulator box, that has always been one of my goals. And I mean, you can do that yourself. You can build this thing yourself using things like RetroArch, Launchbox, all kinds of different standalone emulators. But getting it set up is the biggest pain in the butt in the world. I mean, my setup, like, I've been working on my setup for over 5 years, and I still hate how it looks. Like, I love Launchbox, and I love all the cool themes and stuff you can get for it, but I just can't make it look how I want most of the time, and it starts bugging me, and having to manually get information for things is just super annoying. But with Polymega, that's all out of the box. Like, it's all built in to the box. So when people balk at the price tag and say, well, you could just get a RetroPie, you could just get Launchbox, you could just do all these things on your computer. Yeah, you can. But the cost is in convenience. Because Polymega is going to be able to dump your games, automatically find database entries for them, automatically have great looking thumbnails and screenshots and everything out of the box. Like, it's all included. You don't have to set it up yourself. You don't have to go out and sideload any extra BIOS into it. You can, but you don't have to. They've reverse engineered everything to be used with no user setup other than plug it in, select your language, I'm assuming, and you're good to go. And of course, it has support for NES, SNES, Genesis, 32X, Sega CD, Sega Saturn, PlayStation, Neo Geo CD, PC Engine, PC Engine CD. Like, it can support quite a good range of Gen 5 and lower. And that's just for launch. Brian was talking about possible Dreamcast support. We got talking about drive firmwares, about how it could be implemented into the Polymega's CD drive to support GD-ROMs. And the hardware inside Polymega is also very capable as well. Spec-wise, I'd say it's about as good as the computer I'm recording this on, which is a great emulation PC. So power-wise, it is going to be very capable. Like, honestly, it could handle a good majority of GameCube games. Like, I wouldn't say it could run Rogue Squadron 2, but the future of the system, it looks really good. And they've even mentioned on the pre-order site and other releases that the CPU can be upgraded in the future. So there's a lot of exciting possibilities there. Like, we could see Dreamcast, we could maybe see GameCube, who knows? And again, it's all included in the box, no setup really required, and that is what I've always wanted out of an emulation box. Like, yes, I can set up emulators on my PC. Yes, I can get screenshots and thumbnails and descriptions and all these other things, but it takes so much time to make it look good. And I've set up enough boxes for people, and I've done enough tutorials, and I've done enough stuff to know that it's just going to be so nice, and it's going to be really interesting to see how it affects the market in that area. Like, I can't wait till August when this thing will finally come out. My very next appointment following Polymega was with Nexon, and they had a game on display called Rocket Arena, and it was billed as the Smash Brothers of FPS, and I really had no idea how this concept would hold up in practice, but it was a friggin' blast. Like, there's no actual deaths per se, but as you hit people, a gauge fills up, and once the gauge is completely full, they can be blasted out of the map. And then they have to wait like 2 seconds, then they fly back into the map. And so there were 3 game modes on display. There was basically a death match where you have to remove the banners from everybody. There was a capture the zone, and then there was like a assault game type from Halo Soul. You get the bomb, you take it to the enemy base, but it was like a ball, and you could like toss it. I guess you could say it was like Ricochet from Halo 4. But you could toss it to your teammates, and like you just run it into the score. Or you could throw it into the score zone, and it was a ton of fun. Like it's kind of a combination of hero shooters meets Smash, and I don't know how, but it totally pulled it off, and it was a total blast to play. So that one's gonna be on PC, Xbox One, and it's gonna have crossplay. So I can't wait to see more of that one. I got to go check out the HyperCan booth after Rocket Arena, and they had their new prototype N64 clone console on display. The system itself is a really good size. I really liked the way it looked. It had that HyperCan branding on it. Like, it looked really clean. They still haven't decided if they're going to go the emulation route or if they're going to try to make a clone chip to make it more of a hardware emulation. They haven't decided on that yet. And the system itself wasn't playable, sadly. But they did have the Admiral wireless Bluetooth N64 controller set up on display with Mario Kart 64. So I dug into that, and it felt really good. Like, it had a smaller thumbstick, really good resistance, and it felt responsive. At least for Mario Kart, it was the only game they had on display, but it felt good for Mario Kart 64. I'm hoping that it'll feel good for the rest of the N64 library as well. And the base unit even has the controller pack slot, so you can use save games for games that require it, and it has a micro SD card slot in that unit to back up the controller pack saves to, so that way they won't just be wiped, because controller pack batteries suck. But other cool things I got to see in the HyperCan booth were the HD light gun that they're developing for Duck Hunt and NES, but it's basically like a Game Genie, so it has this attachment port, and then you put the game on top of that. It edits the RAM to delay the light gun detecting boxes that appear around the ducks, the white box, and the light gun itself is designed to better receive those inputs compared to a typical NES zapper. And it worked really well. I mean, the white box showing up longer looked a little weird in practice, but I mean, it's perfectly playable, and it was still enjoyable. It was still friggin' Duck Hunt, so played about 4 rounds on that, and it felt great. Their last product I got to try was their new upcoming racing wheel for Xbox One. It's wireless and it's motion sensing, so it's like playing with a Wiimote on Mario Kart. I wasn't very good at it. We were playing Project Cars, and I was really bad at it. It was cool that it had paddle shifters. Like, I loved the feel of it, but I'm bad at racing games, like simulation racing games, so I don't really know how good it feels. Like, I'm so bad at those games to begin with. I don't know. It's a very interesting product, but I just don't know. Like, I'm not a big fan of motion controls to begin with, and I'm bad at those games, so combining me with the two, it wasn't a good test for me to determine how good the product actually was. But I mean, it responded when I turned, it turned, so I just wish I was better at racing games to give a better answer on it. After HyperCan, I got to go visit my friends at Calypso, who are doing a ton of games that are really exciting to me, including a Commandos 2 HD remake. Oh man, that was cool. Sadly, that one wasn't playable in their booth, but they did have a demo showcasing the new models, some of the enhanced background textures, and it just looked so good. And best yet, it's going to be available on everything. Console, PC, mobile, like, it'll be on everything. I'm so excited. But, yes. Commandos now. But other games they had on display were Praetorians HD, which is a remaster of the 2003 RTS. I've never played that one, but I'm very curious to try it out now. It takes place during the beginning of the Roman Empire. So very intriguing time period, so I can't wait to check that one out more in depth. And then they also had Immortal Realms Vampire Wars, which looks like a cross between something like Heroes of Might and Magic and Fire Emblem. So very interesting gameplay mechanics that I'm excited to see more of. And the story is about 3 different vampire clan factions, and each is very unique, so it looked very cool. and I can't wait to see more of that as well. I believe that one is scheduled to launch by the end of the year, so hopefully won't have to wait long. The last game that I got to try out at the Calypso booth, and I actually did go hands-on with this one, is the Xbox One release of Tropico 6. So the game is already out on Xbox Game Preview, so it can already be purchased and played, but I got to go hands-on with a slightly newer build of it, and it felt really good. Like, there were a couple of hitches when I was fast scrolling through the map, but the UI, graphically, like, it still looked very beautiful. And the UI was very intuitive. I actually like it better than the PC version, just in terms of how easy it was to find things. Time controls were also mapped directly to the D-pad, so it was very easy to speed up and pause time. It still had the ×4. It'd be interesting to see how the ×4 speed will work when you're in a much later version, like much later game, when you have more advanced buildings, more people, everything walking around. It'd be interesting to see how it handles. So I'm hoping to pick that one up on Game Preview soon to really go more hands-on with it, because I did get to review Tropico 6 a few months ago, and I had a blast with the game. Best in the franchise to me, so trying it out on the console will be a ton of fun. I then got to check out Killer Queen Black back at the Indiecade, and that was an awesome game. It's going to be a 4v4 arcade-style game. There's 3 ways to win. There's kill the enemy's queen 3 times, 1 player per team is a queen, the rest are workers. There's gather enough berries to fill your hive, and then there's also a snail somewhere on the map that you can take all the way across, and that's the 3 ways to win a match. And that game was a blast. My final appointment for Wednesday was with Exeed, so I got to go hands-on with every single game that they demoed at their booth, and there were so many good ones. So I got to start off with Burger Time, and that is a cool take on the classic arcade game. It includes multiplayer, PvP, and co-op, which was a ton of fun. I also got to try out Rune Factory 4 Special. It feels like a great upgrade from the 3DS version. Felt a lot smoother to play to me. I never really dove too deep into Rune Factory 4 on the 3DS, but the Switch version definitely felt better to play. I also got to try out Hero Land, which was a cool take on the typical turn-based RPG. You're actually a tour guide that's letting other people live out their role-playing fantasy adventures and earn loot and stuff, and so they will automatically do the battles and automatically do everything, and then you can just interrupt and be like, no, you should try this, to like basically give them commands. Then you have a cooldown timer before you can interrupt again. The whole concept was really neat. I thought it was really well done. The next one I got to try out was Akiba's Trip. I've never played one of those games, so this is actually a remake of the original PSP game from 2011, 2012. They're finally bringing it to the West. It never came to the West originally, only Akiba's Trip 2 came West, and later versions. So it's basically going back to where the series began and showing players like how it started off. And my goodness, what a game that was. It is filled with a ton of hilarious dialogue, really awkward moments, and innuendo throughout. So I don't even know. I was just busting my gut the entire time playing this game, because the whole concept was just so absurd. Like, you're fighting vampires, and the way you defeat them is by ripping their clothes off. Like, what? What? What the heck is this? Oh man. By the end of the demo, I was fighting a character that was in a bear costume, like, to learn how to properly rip the costume off. Like, it was just so absurd. I didn't even know what to do there. It was funny though. It was really funny, and I'm honestly curious to try out the rest of it just to see how out there that game really gets. But oh man, it was something else. Exeed also had a fighting game on display called Granblue Fantasy Versus, and that is probably the most beautiful fighting game I've ever seen. It's being done by Arc System Works, the company that did Dragon Ball FighterZ, and it just looks so freaking gorgeous. Like, beautiful characters, beautiful backgrounds, beautiful animations, and the game felt great to play. It's an approachable fighting game. So it has combos, so if you're like a fighting game pro, it has all kinds of combos you can do. And if you're a novice, R1 and different button combinations do different combos. Like if you do combos manually, you get more, but you have 4 that you can do with a simple R1 and direction, which really made the game more approachable. I had a blast playing it, and I actually played a couple of rounds of multiplayer with that one with my Exeed PR contact, so that was a ton of fun. I beat him once, he beat me once, I don't really remember. Neither one of us play fighting games, so it was a blast. But yeah, the game just looks so good in motion, it looks so gorgeous. I really can't wait for that one to come out. I really want to pick it up.
Down. Player 1, win.
But the last Exeed game I got to try out was called Sakuna, and this game just blew me away. Like, I don't know what it was about it. It's a 2D, like, it's a 2.5D side scroller. It has combo-based attacks, so square was light attack, triangle was heavy attack, and then R1 was to shoot out a scarf you could use to like traverse terrain. And the game just played really good. I really enjoyed it, and the levels, like the level I got to play was a ton of fun. Like I got to use the scarf to traverse over in the environment, and then the combat, I got schooled by bats as typical. I mean, you guys have seen me try to play Castlevania or even Holy Diver in the last couple streams. Like, you know, bats just wreck my life, so the tradition continues with Sakuna. But at the end, there was a giant boss fight, and the guy that did the demo right before me, he got wrecked by this boss, so I felt pretty dang good that I was able to defeat him. Because, like, the guy before me got totally destroyed. And so I was able to defeat this boss, and, like, I just loved it. It was so fun. I seriously still think that is my favorite game of the show. Like, the entire show, that is my favorite game. But after I got to try out that demo, the show floor was closing and security kicks everybody out, so I didn't really get to spend more time with it. Unfortunately, I would have loved to have done the demo again, but I got kicked out. So Thursday morning, the final day of the show floor, I got to start the day off right with Ukulele and the Impossible Lair. When I made this appointment, it was an unannounced game, so again, I went into this appointment not even realizing what game I was actually getting to go hands-on with. And then I saw it was Ukulele, and I was immediately happy because I got to I reviewed the first Ukulele 2 years ago, and I really enjoyed it, even though I don't care for like the Banjo-Kazooies and the Donkey Kong 64. Like, I don't care about those games, but I really enjoyed Ukulele. It was a fun game, and I loved the throwbacks. So I don't know, it just appealed to me a lot more than its source material. But Impossible Lair is a 2D side-scroller with a top-down overworld where you solve puzzles. And so we got to go hands-on with it. It was very responsive. It handled amazingly. And I just, like, it felt great. And it will be coming out sometime this year, which is even better. So I can't wait to review this one as well, hopefully. I spent a little bit of extra time with Ukulele, so I had to end up running to my next appointment with Warner Brothers Interactive. And they were showcasing LEGO Star Wars, the Skywalker Saga. And holy crap, this game is so vastly different than any LEGO game I've ever played. Like, it's not meant for kids anymore. Like, it's meant for, like, teenagers, like, shooter fans. There's actually legit third-person shooter mechanics in it. There is exploration, there are side quests. Each planet acts as its own little mini open-world hub. So we got to see our presenter help out a gonk droid get across the Dune Sea. Like, it was interesting to see how this game worked. And it also has legit force powers this time. So I'm sad that I probably won't be able to play this game with my kids as they're playing through LEGO Star Wars: The Complete Saga right now. I won't be able to play it with them, but the game's coming out in 2020, so who knows how much they'll advance in game playing skill by then. Maybe they can play it. I don't know, but the game looks so good, And it even has space battles when you're traveling between different planets. So there's actual space battles. The Super Star Destroyer came out, launched TIE fighters. We got to see Millennium Falcon take out guys, and it looked good. Like, it's no Rogue Squadron, but it's a good substitute in the meantime, I guess. An interesting thing that happened while I was waiting to see Lego Star Wars, though, I actually got talking with a couple of CD Projekt Red developers, and they actually gave me a fast pass to get in to see Cyberpunk 2077. It was closed off, behind closed doors theater presentation, just like Lego Star Wars was, and the line to see it was a good 2 hours, so I wasn't even going to bother. There was no way I was going to bother trying to get in to see this demo. Like, I want to see it, but I wasn't going to try. I didn't have an appointment for it, but I got to talking to those guys in the Warner Brothers booth, and they ended up just giving me a fast pass to get in. So as soon as my demo for Lego Star Wars was done, immediately just walked around, handed the fast pass to the guy at the front of the line, walked right into Cyberpunk immediately after, and holy crap, does that game look so good. There's so many different approaches to how you could do things, how you could build your character. Oh, it just looks so good. But after I checked out Cyberpunk, I was actually late for my next appointment, which was for Chris Tales, a really awesome looking RPG that has time mechanics, and honestly, anything that includes time travel is amazing. We all know this. Very gorgeous game. The whole art style is inspired by Colombian culture, and it's trying to be an ode to RPGs of yesteryear, and it's just so good. And there was a lot of decisions, like there's a lot of consequences to your decisions. So honestly, check out my coverage on Game Tyrant for this one. I can't do it justice and how fast I need to wrap up this video, but beautiful game. I need to see more of it, and I can't wait to dive in.
You can rewrite the future.
My next appointment was actually with Devolver Digital, and I think this might be my second favorite game of the entire show, and it was Fall Guys. This game is nuts. This game is absolutely nuts. It's basically a game show meets battle royale type of a thing. So there's going to be 100 characters, or 100 players, and you're just competing in these little mini games to whittle down the competition until you crown one final victor. And so in the demo, we had about 60-ish or so players. 4 were real, the rest were bots. And so the first one we do, we have to get to a finish line. We're racing to the end. But along the path are these brick walls. Different doorways with brick walls in them. And you have to jump into the brick to get through. So some of them won't budge and others will crumble and let you go through. And as you progress through the track, the number of brick walls decreases and the number of ones that are breakable decreases with it. So you end up with some pretty impressive bottlenecks by the end, because there's only 3 doorways and only one of them will let you break through. So you end up getting a ton of people just jammed up against each other, and the game is just so funny. The ragdoll physics in it are just the best. But anyway, end up coming in first for that round. And so the next mini game, there are characters that spawn with tails and characters that spawn without tails, and you have about 2 minutes or so, and you have to end the round with a tail to advance to the final round. So the first time I was able to keep my tail really easy. I was able to get away from competition. Like, it's different levels. There's like spinning hammers that'll send people flying. Like, it was hilarious. But the second time we played 2 full rounds. The second round we played, I lost my tail, and I didn't think I was going to get it back. There was 10 seconds left on the clock, and I finally stole another tail at 1 second left. Like, photo finish, just grab this person's tail, and then the clock hits 0. Like, oh man, it was nuts. But the final round, you're trying to climb up a mountain to grab a crown. And there's boulders that are being launched at you. If you get hit by a boulder, you're just pasted to the ground, and you have to get back up, and it's really slow, and it's hilarious to see these boulders rolling down the hill and the ones launching on you. Like, it's just funny to see, like, a group of the guys just get smashed by a boulder and all go flying. And then there's also spinning gates that can just knock people away again. So it was Oh, it was so fun to watch. Like, it's gonna be one of the best party games of all time, and I cannot wait. So I ended up winning the crown the first round, and I came in like fourth the second time around, sadly. But man, what a blast it was! Like each time, it was so fun. After this, I went to my appointment with RetroBit, and as anyone who's been watching the channel knows, I've been working with RetroBit for a while now. They've been very supportive. I can't thank them enough for that. But I got to go check out their booth, check out all the new products. So they had a ton of new stubbins on display. They also showcased a new Master Chief, the Banjo-Kazooie, Bill and Lance from Contra. So those all look freaking cool. They're also introducing a new pixel art, framed art type thing. And it basically is a multi-layered artwork to give it the depth of 3D, and it just looks super awesome. And they even had one for Mega Man X and Sigma, which you know I need to buy to celebrate the soft lock. I need this! They also have one for Street Fighter 2 and Sonic the Hedgehog, and they all look fantastic. I also got to check out some new controller prototypes, including a new take on the NES Max, and the new wireless Tribute 64. There's also 2 SNES-style controllers for N64 and GameCube that look really great, and I can't wait to see how they evolve over the coming months. There was also a prototype for a new Dreamcast controller, which had 6 face buttons to kind of more mimic the look of a Sega Saturn controller, but the last 2 face buttons will just pretty much mirror the triggers. So if you're playing a fighting game, it'll be a lot better to play them with a 6-face button controller. There was also a prototype of a new Sega Genesis Model 1 controller, so the big guy, the big boomerang. But instead of having 3-face buttons, it actually had the 6-face buttons to give it the full functionality for fighting games. So if you're a fan of the original Model 1 controller, but you hate that it never had the 6-face buttons for Street Fighter 2, there's something in the works for that now. I sadly didn't think to take video of it or a picture, but it looked good. It looked really good. It felt good. So I think that'll be pretty exciting for Model 1 fans out there. Also got to check out the new collector's edition for Metal Storm. The box art isn't final, but they had the collectible figure there. It's not painted yet, but it looks really awesome. And this is a game that I've never seen before. Like it never really registered on my radar, but I've gotten to check it out over the last couple of weeks after hearing about it, and I've learned about it, and it honestly doesn't even seem like this game could be possible on an NES. Like, it's so advanced. So I can't wait to pick up this collector's edition and really try it out. After spending a ton of time in the RetroBit booth, I finally had to move on to my next appointment, which was with 2K to see Borderlands 3. And my goodness, is this game an upgrade over Borderlands 2. It felt so good to play. Shooting mechanics were spot on. Mose, the new gunner character, was a ton of fun to play. I love her mech, Iron Bear. I'm sure fans of Borderlands are going to be happy with this game. Like, it felt top notch, and I don't really know what else to say about it. It just felt good to play, and that's what's important to me. I didn't really get to check out too much of the leveling system, but the game is going to have a ton of stuff in it, so I'm pretty excited for when this one comes out in September. So saving the best for last, my last appointment at E3 2019 was with Bandai Namco, who we have worked with for a number of years now as well. I mean, they sent me that Ace Combat 7 review copy just recently, so thanks again, guys. I really appreciate it. So I was excited to check out Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, because I haven't had a Dragon Ball Z RPG that I've enjoyed really a whole lot since Legacy of Goku. Like, the Dragon Ball Xenoverse games were good, but they're a separate take on it. Like, they're a side story that takes place alongside the main story. So, I mean, they were good in their own right, but nothing feels like doing the RPG from Goku's perspective like Legacy of Goku did. So that's kind of what Kakarot does. The demo I got to play was 20 minutes long, and there was a ton of things to do. Like, you could just fly around this semi-open world. Each level is a huge, like, explorable area. The whole game isn't just open world. It's different levels, and they're just... but there was a ton to do. So this was the beginning of the Saiyan saga. Raditz has taken Gohan, and we need to go fight Raditz and get Gohan back. So I have Piccolo with me, and I'm just flying around the world, picking up key orbs, and fighting giant dinosaurs, because why not? There's dinosaurs down on the planet, down on the ground, so I just go and start attacking one. Because why not? You can also go fish. Like, there's a lot to do. You get to talk to side characters, and it was just a blast. But my time began running out. The show floor was about to close, so I had to go take on Raditz. And this game tries to keep things accurate to the show in terms of how one-sided battles feel. So Raditz was creaming me. He's just absolutely destroying me. And you have to rely super heavily on the block mechanics and your dodge moves to try to get by it. Because, again, this is trying to be more accurate to what the show was. And so, obviously, Raditz is way more powerful than Goku at this point. And, yeah, it showed. It's not a fighting game, so there's not going to be the balanced characters. It's completely one-sided, so be prepared to be obliterated. A lot. Finally, I was able to whittle him down to about half health, and Piccolo leaves my team basically to start charging his special beam cannon, which, if you've seen the show, kills Goku and Raditz. Spoiler. And so the second half of the fight just involves you fighting Raditz alone, and it's even more absurd. Raditz starts pulling out these crazy charged moves, and visually the game is, like, it was stunning. It's probably the best 3D Dragon Ball Z game I feel like I've ever seen. Like, anyone that's played the old Dragon Ball Z fighting games or even the Xenoverse games, like, I don't feel like those games have ever really looked that good. But Kakarot looks better than most. So, I'm pretty excited about that. And the fighting moves and the flare and everything there, it was all there. Very visually stunning. Should be very pleasing to any Dragon Ball Z fan out there. After numerous blocks and using a couple of potions for health recovery, I was able to beat Raditz, and that's where the demo ended and the show floor closed, so had to take off. But like I said at the beginning of this very long video, that isn't where the story ends when it came to E3, because after that, I had to fly home, and then had to get all my coverage for all of these demos up, so I didn't finish getting all of this stuff up until Wednesday. So nearly a week after the show's over, I'm finally done covering every single thing. So if you're interested in checking out what I thought of a lot of these games in more detail than what I've explained here, you can check out all of my coverage of E3 on GameTyrant.com. I'd really appreciate it if you would, but what an experience. I've been to E3 before, but the last time I went was such a bad experience. Like, I hated it. I almost didn't go this year based on that past experience, but this year was such a blast, and I'm really glad I went. I got to see a ton of cool things. I got to meet a ton of cool people who I now have contact with, and I actually got to run into a number of YouTubers like Nintendo and Metal Jesus Rocks, which was really cool. But probably one of my favorite encounters during the whole show floor was getting to meet John Linneman of Digital Foundry. John makes amazing videos, he makes amazing content, he makes stuff that I myself am inspiring to get up to the level of. So being able to have a 15-minute conversation with John was probably one of my highlights of the week, on top of everything else that was just piled on top. So thank you again, John, for indulging my conversation. I really appreciate it. But anyways, guys, this video has gone on for far long enough. I basically just did an info dump on you. Not sure if anyone is even still watching by this point, but oh well. This is history right here. I'm happy to document this. But what an incredible show E3 2019 was. Can't wait to go back for E3 2020. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. If any of you are still watching now, I appreciate you sticking around to the end of the video.